Hello, and welcome to another spooky Sunday. I really hope that you have enjoyed the one before this, and you'll enjoy this one and all the ones that are to follow for Nightmare Month. This spooky Sunday will be a tale from Reddit user beautiful_deer307, Killer Mark. You know, it's weird how the quiet ones are always the ones you suspect first. My friend's words echoed in my mind as I looked around the dimly lit room. The party had been a bust. A bunch of us had decided to spend the night at Mark's place, a dilapidated old mansion on the edge of town that had definitely seen better days. The floorboards creaked with every step, and the wallpaper peeled in places, revealing the dry, yellow plaster beneath. The house had been in his family for generations, and it showed. It had the eerie charm of a place that held secrets. Mark was indeed the quiet type. He'd inherited this mansion from his grandparents and had moved in alone after graduating high school. He never talked much about his life before that, which only added to the mystery. Whenever we'd ask him about the noises we heard at night at this mansion, he'd just shrug and say it was the house settling. But something about the way he said it sent shivers down my spine. It was as if he was hiding something. The party had been going pretty strong until the lights flickered and finally died. We'd all laughed at first, sure, but as the minutes ticked by and the darkness grew thicker, the laughter had turned to nervous whispers. Why did the lights cut off? Where did Mark go? Why are they not back on yet? Mark had gone to check the fuse box, and that was the last we saw of him. We found candles scattered throughout the house, and we lit them one by one, the flickering light casting dancing shadows on the walls. But the air grew colder with each passing moment, and the whispers grew quieter. My heart raced as I heard a faint sound, like the rustling of fabric coming from the next room. Guys, I called out, but the only response was the echo of my own voice. The shadows grew longer and more sinister, and the candlelight seemed to push the darkness into the corners, only for it to seep back out again. I swallowed hard, trying to convince myself that it was just the old house playing tricks on my mind. But the feeling of being watched, it grew stronger, and I couldn't shake the image in my mind of Mark standing there in the shadows, a twisted smile playing on his lips. We decided to split up and look for him, which was probably the dumbest thing we could have done. The house was a labyrinth of corridors and staircases that led to nowhere. I took the east wing, the part of the mansion that was rumored to be haunted by the ghost of Mark's great aunt, who had allegedly killed herself in one of the bedrooms upstairs. Each door I passed felt heavier, as if it were trying to keep me from discovering what lay beyond. I reached the top of the stairs and paused. The candle casted a feeble glow around me. The rustling grew louder, and the air grew colder still. I could feel the hairs on the back of my neck standing on end. I took a deep breath and stepped into the first room, the floorboards groaning beneath my weight all the while. The room was empty, save for a dusty four-poster bed and a wardrobe that looked like it hadn't been opened in decades. I shivered, the candle flame flickering as if in response to my fear. It was then that I heard it, a soft, muffled cry. It was faint, but it was definitely human. It was coming from the room at the end of the hall. My heart hammering in my chest, I approached the door. It was slightly ajar, and through the crack I could see a sliver of dim light. The crying grew closer and louder, and I recognized the voice. It was Mark. I pushed the door gently, the hinges squeaking in protest. The room was a mess, with clothes and books scattered everywhere. In the corner, huddled over something on the floor, was Mark. His face was a mask of despair. My blood turned to ice as I saw what lay before him. One of my friends, unmoving, with a knife buried deep in his chest. Mark? I choked out and my voice was trembling. He looked up then. His eyes were wild with a mix of terror, but something else, also of malice. The knife glinted in his hand as he yanked it out of this lifeless body. His gaze locked onto me and he bolted upright, the bed spring groaning beneath him. In that moment, I realized my mistake. He wasn't crying over a tragedy. He was crying in anticipation of his next victim. And that victim was me. With a snarl, Mark lunged towards me, the knife raised high. I stumbled back, the flame of my candle throwing erratic shadows on the walls. My heart was a jackhammer in my chest as I fumbled for the door, my mind racing to find a way out. But the floorboards had other plans. One step too many on the rotted wood, and I heard the unmistakable sound of a board giving way. With a splintering crack, I plummeted through the floor, the candle extinguishing as I fell into the abyss below. The fall seemed to last an eternity, darkness swallowing me whole. I landed hard on the first floor, the impact sending shockwaves through my body. The wind was knocked out of me, and for a moment I could not breathe. The house groaned around me as if alive with the horror of what had just transpired. I scrambled to my feet, my eyes frantically searching for an escape. I could hear Mark's footsteps pounding down the stairs, growing louder with each passing second. Panic clouded my thoughts. but instinct took over. I stumbled through the moonlit foyer, my eyes landing on the front door. The handle felt cold and solid in my hand, and I yanked it open with all the strength that I could muster. The night air rushed in, a stark contrast to the stale, suffocating air of this mansion. My legs propelled me forward, carrying me to the safety of my car parked just outside. The engine roared to life, and I threw the gears into reverse, tires screeching against the gravels. The house loomed in the rearview mirror, a monolith of malevolence that had swallowed my friends whole. 8 years had passed since that fateful night. I had tried to bury the memory so deep, to convince myself that it had all been a terrible nightmare. But the news reports had brought it all back. Mark had been caught, and the trial was about to begin. They called him Killer Mark, and the details of the crimes made my stomach just churn. He had killed over a dozen people in that house, each one a grisly tapestry of fear and pain. And I had been there, and I had witnessed it with my own eyes. And I lived to tell the tale. Thank you for coming to the second episode of Spooky Sundays. I really hope that you enjoy these as we venture through the tales of the crypt together. If you wouldn't mind, please leave a comment and let me know how you are enjoying them. And until our next spooky adventure together, I hope that you all have a blessed evening.